Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 10. We made it. Somehow we've made it 10 straight weeks in a row,
Double
10
dip.
episodes. Which, technically, if you include the bonus episode, we're at 11. But, we're just going to say it's 10 officially. So, we are all here. Let's see here. Who's looking mighty? Blake's looking mighty purple right now. He's looking a different shade that I've never seen him before.
Purple.
Most time he just looks white as frick. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on here.
It wasn't as hard as a day out at the garden center, so I don't look as pale and tired this time, I guess.
I got you. You need to just. I don't know, man. You look purple. You look so purple.
Really?
Yes.
I look normal on my end.
Just snap. You look like Thanos.
Yeah.
He looks like someone's choking him with all air.
Yeah.
You just need a ball sack chin. That's all you need, and you're good to go.
Yeah, he snapped, and about 6,000 people just disappeared. I mean, golly.
Goodness. All right, we got Austin here with us today.
Hello, guten Tag.
That's pretty good. I got the hello part. Other than that, And we also got Kent with us here today.
What's up?
And we're all here and we're ready to make another recording. So
Das ist gut.
Brought to you by Volkswagen.
A Volkswagen.
Das Auto.
Das Autobahn. Das ist gut.
Well,
Y'all
now we know.
really
Now we know who the new manufacturer of NASCAR is going to be. Right there, it's going to be Volkswagen.
Drive over. Das ist not good.
Coming in 2026, Kyle Busch Motorsports will be taking on the Volkswagen Jetta in the Daytona 500.
Man,
The car wouldn't make it.
that's our fans' fantasy right there.
Oh boy, I can hear all the Facebook people just absolutely losing their crap.
Kyle Busch on the Autobahn.
Y'all know what we're doing for April Fool's Day next year.
Oh yeah. All right, don't spoil it.
No one's going to remember this episode. It's going to be an obscure memory by then.
That's fair. Of course, the pod has the Instagram and all the socials at FOURWIDE and then pod. So it's on all platforms, which, technically you have like threads and all the obscure stuff, but who cares? Honestly, who cares? You could say the same thing about the Cup race this weekend. Who cares? Because, man, oh man. But before we get to the Cup race, we're going to talk about the sports, clips, haircuts, FVW, Help a Hero 200.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah. This could have been the Help a Hero 200. That would have been perfectly fine. But I guess you got to throw in that abbreviation to be all-inclusive these days. 6 cautions for 34 laps, 19 lead changes between 11 drivers. That's when we get to the Cup side. Just wait, guys. Just wait. And we had 2 drivers that failed to qualify: Dawson Cram and Austin Green. That's the second week Cram's not been able to get into the race. So hope that he'll end up making it. Of course, we're talking about Xfinity. Trucks obviously did not race. Want to throw that out there for anybody that's kind of just a casual. Gray actually had the fastest lap this week, so fast car turning on lap 2. So that time stood the test of time, as they would say. Noticeable finishes. We got P1, Brandon Jones getting that first win. We will talk, of course, more about that here in a little bit. P2, you had Elliott being able to squeeze out a top 2 finish, which, looking at that restart, he kind of got the best restart out of all of them. P3, Allgaier had a very dominant performance again, looked really strong this week. He's always good at Darlington, and honestly, every time they bring a 7 retro paint scheme, it always looks fantastic.
It was a very Byron-esque performance for Allgaier.
Allgaier, for sure. P4, you got old Rossi Chastain. Put him in the wall, Chastain. Ruined Christopher Bell's day.
He's back.
He's back. P5, you got old Quapple in the Jamie McMurray ride. Throwback. Connor Zilich, P6. Christian Eckes, P7. Great performance by him. Sanchez, P8. I would never guess that going into that one of those last restarts when I think Christopher Bell hit him twice. It was quite rough to see. Smith, P9. Sheldon Creed sneaks into that top 10. Not the usual P2, but he got in the top 10. So I swear that man's going to win a race before I die, maybe.
He's going to have a Daniel Hemrick kind of year where he just wins the championship just from finishing second the entire time.
It would be pretty cool. I'd be all for it. That was a very interesting year, in all honesty. It does speak a lot to the consistency, I think. With this new playoff format, and I'm not even going to get onto the rant about all that.
Was it Crafton's last championship? He never won a race the whole season?
That's right.
In the Truck Series?
That was, 2019 maybe?
It's been a hot minute, but I know you're kind of getting at that, Cole, but, that's been done. It's happened, and it's like, man, we emphasize winning, and here's a guy didn't win a daggum thing. Won the championship. It's been a while. People forgot about it, but it still points out your point that the system is maybe just a little bit flawed.
Yeah. It allows it to happen, but it's not easy to make it happen. You just got to have the perfect year. P12, you got old Sieg being able to grind one out once again.
My new favorite driver.
Yeah.
Nice.
Is that
inside joke?
Yeah, I hear you. P13, you got old Harrison Burton. He was able to, he played some interesting strategy, which we will talk about a little bit. So it was good to see him. This year's been super consistent. Him and Jeb both have been really good. So drivers with issues. Josh Williams overheated, not himself. I like to throw that out there because I feel like he's doing a lot better health-wise, but the car overheated. Honeyman, due to his involvement with the wreck with Alfredo. I don't know if you guys seen the feud that Alfredo and him are having now, which is wild to me. And Chris Wright, due to a suspension issue, which was mainly because he wrecked. But the first talking point, it feels like it's kind of obvious, right? Brandon Jones outclassed the entire field, full of Cup drivers. You had great Cup drivers. You got Ross Chastain, you got Christopher Bell, you got Chase Elliott. And some of the best in Xfinity series. You got Justin Allgaier. We stated that Allgaier is one of those Xfinity goats, nationwide Xfinity goats. He's got the resume, and Brandon Jones was able to perform really well towards the end of the race. And people forget he started on the front row. He was up there. So. And that, of course, ended his 93 winless streak going back for 2022 Martinsville. So me and Blake were there when he won in Martinsville. So that shows you how long ago that was. So I will throw it to Blake first because it seems like he has a point. He was about to attack me when I said Brandon Jones. So
no, you're
I'll
good.
throw it to him.
No, you're good. I just want to throw a question out to y'all boys. So Darlington is one of those tracks where we said last week that bad drivers don't win at. Is it time to start taking Brandon Jones serious in the Xfinity Series as at least a somewhat decent driver? Does this win solidify that in y'all's minds?
I've always felt like he was a good driver, but I think I mentioned this to one of my friends that's not one of you guys that we talk about NASCAR. Yeah, I know. I know it's crazy. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry. But I think Brandon Jones is just a person that's comfortable with Toyota being his REM. I think that's just what he's comfortable with. I think maybe that move to Junior Motorsports, he realized that there was enough of a difference in regards to the manufacturers and the support that he was getting, which, Junior, of course, is getting top support. But it was different for him. It's a different environment, and it just didn't flow well for him. And now he's gone back to JGR, and he's looked incredibly consistent throughout the first portion of the year. It's not just been a one-off, two-off. He's been putting good performances in the last 3 to 4 weeks, in all honesty.
Outside of Daytona and Atlanta, he's had a great year. So, yeah.
Which is plate tracks.
Yeah.
Yep. What about you, Kent?
Yeah, I still don't know about him. and I could say something that I know would be controversial with this group.
Say it.
Man, I'm just not sold on Eric Jones either. And we say, man, Eric Jones, he won at Darlington. That's
Twice,
awesome.
right?
He did win there twice. And he won. I mean, but you know who else won at Darlington? Regan
Brandon
Smith.
Jones twice.
Regan Smith won at Darlington.
He also
There
has equipment either.
and so there's I think circumstances where I think it's just hard to pass for the lead. I mean, you look at even on Sunday, you had one green flag pass for the lead the whole time. It's just hard to do that clean
There
at
was
Darlington.
4 lead changes among 4 drivers for the Cup race.
So one of those I believe was green flag, and that was when Ryan Blaney ran down Reddick. The others took place on pit road. One was a green flag pit road exchange when Reddick got it from Byron, but I don't think that Darlington is the marker that we think that it is. Here's my thing, because I would say the same thing about Dover, but Ryan Truex still hadn't really gotten a chance, even after he won with JGR. Here's what I think has to happen for Brandon Jones. Do y'all remember the mentality that Chase Briscoe had when he was getting ready to come into the Cup Series? Was it him that said, "I got to go out and I got to win 10 races. I got to win 10 races." And I think he won like 9 that season. And we're talking about 2020,
Yeah.
And he was like, "Man, I didn't hit my goals." Dude, you won 9 races. That's sick. That's insane. And he got his shot at Cup, and now, right, he's driving the 19 car, one of the best rides in the entire series.
Especially this season.
Yeah, and so I don't know. Brandon Jones is going to have to. I'm not saying he has to win 9 races. He's going to have to win 4 or 5 for me to take him very seriously as someone who belongs in a Cup car. I'll just say that.
So,
Right, Austin,
no, I'm just a kind of a devil's advocate question. Are you saying his win at Darlington was a fluke?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. No, I'm saying if we're judging him based off the criteria of like he's got to become is he doing what it takes to become a Cup Series driver, someone that we can actually consider a championship contender in the Xfinity Series and deserving of a ride at the Cup level? He's going to have to win at least 4 or 5 races before we can take him that seriously. I'm not saying he can't do it,
Okay.
and I'm definitely not going to say he won't do it. But in that equipment, you've really got to be in the hunt just about every single weekend. You're almost without excuse to have equipment that good and to not. I mean, JGR. I think JGR brings the best equipment. This year, you can argue they're bringing the best stuff on Sundays, but they definitely, for a while now, have had the hottest seats on Saturdays. And so I don't know. I want to see more from Brandon Jones. I want to see him kind of take that step from mediocre to great. I think he can do it. I just want to see him do it.
The reason I asked is because you're talking about how last week we talked about how nobody lucks into a win at Darlington. So I was just like, were you saying that Brandon like lucked into the win? I was just
no. Denny Hamlin did. We'll get to that in a minute. Brandon Jones did not. No, he earned that, and you can't take that from him. He had probably a few, but that's NASCAR, right? You have to have some things go your way. But no, he didn't luck into that. He drove his way into that, and so you got to commend him for that. But I'm also not ready to say, oh, he won at Darlington. He's the best driver in the field.
Yeah, I got you.
Well, that's fair. I feel like.
Yeah.
I do want to say that Brandon Jones 100% earned this win. This was a great overall performance. He was able to hang around because track position is key at Darlington. I mean, just look at everything that people had to claw and get at the Cup race and the Xfinity race. I will talk about Harrison Burton here in a little bit about what he did. That pretty much was able to get him not a top 10 finish at the end of the day, but he was able to get stage points. He actually won a stage, which incredible points. I mean, that's what you need. But I did want to mention that also Christopher Bell looked really strong in the later part of the race. He looked good at the start and then just completely faded out of the picture. It was like gone. And then we had the restart where he didn't get pushed into the wall, but he was pretty much forced into the wall the way that Chastain was driving, and it checked them both up on that restart. And then, there's just pandemonium for Bell towards the end of the race as well when he got into Sanchez twice on the same restart. But I hate it for him, not because he's not won any races this year. He's already won 3 races on the Cup level, but they were mentioning that Sports Clips, of course, being the primary sponsor of this Xfinity race, he always wants to give them the best car available. Which you had I about called Denny Hamlin Carl Edwards for a minute. Denny Hamlin got to be able to put Sports Clips in victory lane, but it was not their race. I just wanted to mention that there's really not a lot of talking points in regards to Christopher Bell, but track position was a good talking point. I feel like this will be universal for both races. Running in dirty air at Darlington just looks absolutely horrific. Like, that is to be avoided at all costs. Because even if you have a fantastic car, like one of the best cars in the field, you get put in mid-pack, man, oh man, it is so hard to pass. Especially in the new car. But I think strategy is kind of like Harrison Burton, who took tires to get a stage win. That stuff right there is interesting to me, especially in regards to a team that's up and coming. They're not a primarily, like, you don't think of the Xfinity Series, you definitely don't think of AM Racing. I mean, the only thing that put them really on the map for me personally is, of course, when Deegan was part of their operation, because that was a name thing. But now they have another name, Harrison Burton, very prominent name, was at the Cup Series level last year, and we talked about, Harrison not too long ago, especially with Josh Berry getting that win at Las Vegas. It felt like you had to mention him, but I like seeing teams being gritty like this. This is good storylines for me, because if it's just the same drivers winning stages week to week, it gets kind of bland.
Yeah.
Just think of the years that Jimmy Johnson was winning those championships and winning those races so consecutively and consistently. And even feel like you could talk about it with Byron. I mean, once we get to the Cup race, they're very hard races to get into because you just get, like, staring at who's first and just watching them going around. Which
Shut out Richard Petty.
About. Yeah, thanks, Richard. Oh, boy. Richard Petty in the booth was absolutely iconic this weekend. I didn't write that down, but we will talk about that. So, what do you guys feel about strategy and whatnot when it comes to the Xfinity Series, especially for these lower teams? Not necessarily like lower grade, but just ones that don't have the highest quality equipment like AM Racing. And do you think that a team like that, based upon just getting those few stage wins, are able to make a good run in the playoffs, giving, what is the playoffs now? It's a little bit different than, Matt Crafton back in 2019, just a little bit, because you got different incentives and whatnot. So I was kind of curious what your thoughts were about this. I'm going to throw it to Austin first, if he has anything.
Well, if you can't win the race, if you know your car can't win the race, why not just try to get some stage points? I mean, Harrison Burton, he wasn't going to win the race. He was, just outside of the top 10 running car. And towards the caution there at the end of the stage makes the decision to make a gutsy move on pit road and got him some stage points. I think if you know you don't have a car that's good enough to win, then you have to take every advantage to get those points when you can get them. Harrison Burton, he ain't going to be running like Allgaier. He ain't going to be running like JRM or Gibbs. He's not going to be running that like that. So for these smaller teams, points still matter. I mean, if you're a mid-pack team and you're able to finish, top 10 in the owner's points, that's good money coming your way. That's good. That's good for your team. So, I think it is privy of these teams to towards the end of these stages, if you know you're not gonna, if you know your car is probably not going to win the race, you get that caution, make the ballsy move on pit road, and get you some points.
Especially, with points, not just taking consideration to the playoffs, but also at the end of the year, you get money based upon where you stand in the points.
Yep.
It's a big deal for those smaller organizations. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that, Blake?
Well, I mean, I think from a fan perspective, it's awesome. If you have a car that you know can't beat the leader, do something that the leader's not doing. Come real early, come later in the stage, do whatever you have to do to try to get some stage points or a kind of chip off the block kind of win, right? I think it's fun from a fan's perspective to see that because, and I mean, especially like we'll stick with the AM racing narrative. That about 2 years ago, they were doing pretty decent with Brett Moffitt. I wish they would have done better with Haley Deegan, but that car, I don't whether it was her, the team, something obviously just wasn't meshing there, right? And even when other people got in it still didn't really do great. So, and I'm excited because as a fan, I get to look forward to, hey, on that next weekend, can a team like AM continue some of this momentum? Can they hang with the big boys eventually? So, from a fan's perspective, it kind of gives me a storyline on how to watch well during the race.
I bet you can't.
When you go to these races, and I remember even from the time I was a kid, you go to these races and you got the recognizable cars, right? And then you get the ones in the back of the pack that you're going, who drives that car again?
Who is that guy?
Who is that? And so, for there to be a recognizable name in one of these cars that you would typically be going, who's that again? Let me look online. Let me look at the app, but then to see him have any type of success and running at the front, it was cool seeing Harrison Burton, make those moves and pass for the lead. He's on fresher tires. That there's a huge advantage. Did y'all hear the radio before they went back green, what he was being told over the radio?
No.
They were telling him, hey, just ride around in the back, save your tires, just ride around in the back. And homie took off out of a rocket. He was like, man, I gotta, this fast car can go. Let me go. And, and I'm sure that looking back, the team is thinking, man, I'm glad he didn't listen to us because he went and he actually won the stage. Like y'all said, it's not going to ever work out. I mean, unless it's just, man, there's 15 laps to go on the restart and someone in 20th has fresh tires. Everyone else has, wore out tires and, man, they've got time to get to the front, but someone's gambling. I mean, it's just going to be a rare situation where something like that happens at the very end of the race. But right there, it was pretty cool to see. And then to get them the exposure for their sponsors, to get that exposure for the team, the drivers, everything. I mean, it was really cool to see. So, I like it when you try to take, hey, look, you're stacking pennies, right? You're stacking nickels, stacking dimes, when you get those stage wins. And it's always a good thing.
Which I'm sure it was pretty cool for him to win a stage in a car that's designed to look like one of his father's cars too. That's probably going to be a good memory.
That was
when it's all said and done.
Great scheme.
I just, out of curiosity, off the top of y'all's heads, y'all don't even have to elaborate on why. What was y'all's favorite throwback scheme on Saturday? Not Sunday, Saturday.
I think my personal favorite is Alfredo's. The the silver bullet looking scheme. I just think it looks clean.
It was sharp.
It's not the most flamboyant. I would say the honorable mention would go to Jeff Burton's Excite paint scheme that Matt ran, but you didn't see it much on TV. In all honesty,
I thought was it Leland Honeyman's Nesquik car.
That was pretty cool.
About a Jeff Green.
I like that one in DiBenedetto's.
Mine was probably the 26 car for throwing back to Jamie McMurray's Irwin car, and
that was clean.
That was clean. And runner up was probably the throwback to Jeff Gordon's Looney Tunes car at Richmond.
Yeah. That was my favorite the whole weekend was that Brendan Poole throwback. And I saw so many in that race, though, that I just thought – I thought there were better paint schemes on Saturday than there were on Sunday.
Easy. Clear,
but,
for sure.
Man, the creativity. What's that?
They do a much better job than the Cup Series, usually.
I also get to keep the number centered in the door. But anyways, but
All
yeah,
right, Boomer.
I know, right? Just for throwback weekend, I'm cool with the number being slid forward, but for throwback weekend, I didn't neat. But anyways, the Looney Tunes card though, that was my favorite.
That was good.
Yeah, but that was a lot of good cars. Also, Quapple's throwback to Jay McMurray when he won the 500 was a really cool paint scheme. In all honesty, I didn't mention that one, but
Oh, we forgot about the 41 throwback to
Mhm.
Kurt Busch winning at Daytona. That one was pretty cool. The
with the
grass
grass
sick.
on the
it.
hood. That
Yeah.
was
The
nice.
fact that they remembered the grass on the hood, like just that made it.
Well, me and Blake were able to stop by Stuart Haas back when I think it was a year or two after, and they had it in the front lobby, and the grass is still sitting there in front of the car, like they've not took it off.
I think it was. Let's see. He won in 2017, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been December 2018 when we went. So that's right.
Yeah. So that was really cool, and I mean, it's first thing you walked in, no museum, just sitting there right on the floor. It was really cool to see. It had all that scarring. That's a great die cast right there for anyone that wants to get into collecting. That's one I would recommend. The last point I'd like to mention is just Allgaier. We kind of slightly said it, but he had a very good race. Uh, Usually a dominant track for him. He usually leads a lot of laps, and he's always up in front. So it was tough to see him not be able to clinch it out, but also on the other end of the spectrum, he's going to have a lot more races where he's going to be contending for the win anyways. So I think that narratively, if you think that NASCAR is a book or something, if someone's like writing the script on the back end or whatever, because there are people that believe that, um, Brandon Jones would be a good pick. It would be not necessarily a Cinderella story necessarily, but it was a good win. He's a good guy. He always has been. I've never seen anything bad about Brandon Jones as a person. So we are going to move on to the Goodyear 400, the Cup race, the Slam Dacky. Slam Dacky, that's a new word for you guys. Write it down in y'all's history books. 8 cautions for 45 laps. There was someone in our hot takes that predicted that we weren't going to have any cautions. Man, that person sucks.
Just said,
4 lead changes.
just said no lead changes.
Well, you would have been wrong because there's 4 lead changes among 4 drivers.
I would at least been closer.
24 got the fastest lap. So, hey, Kent, he got that extra point. Go on top of that second place finish. But the guy that was able to strategize and win the race, pit crew won that race for him. Denny Hamlin, P2. He got William Byron, who absolutely put the slam on these poor fellas this weekend. Probably it was the most dominant car that Hendricks had since Kyle Larson in Bristol for sure. P4, Tyler Reddick. Christopher Bale was P3, by the way. I just skimmed right over him. It wasn't a slight Daniel, I promise. P5, Ryan Blaney. P6, Chris Buescher. My man is just getting in the top 10 no matter what. P7, Ross Chastain. Darlington's usually historically a decent track for him. So P8, Chase Elliott with the best scheme of the weekend, finishing P8.
Beautiful scheme.
Yeah.
Identical.
For a colorblind person, for sure. P9, Ty Gibbs. That's his first top 10 this year, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
good for him.
Yep. So maybe Daniel will jump back on the Ty Gibbs train. P10. Do what?
I was just laughing.
Oh, yeah. P10, Kyle Busch.
Bish.
Got that top 10. Had a decent car all day. Went back and forth. I had a little incentive to watch him because I picked him this week, but just not a very dominant car. But it is what it is. It's good for him to get a top 10 at least. P11, you have Austin Cindric, Blake's new silver spoon that he always talks about now. P12, you got Smith, Zane Smith, which had honestly one of my favorite schemes this weekend. So clean, just that white Long John Silver's looking car. It's a very clean looking scheme.
It did not make me want to go eat at Long John Silver's, though.
I don't think anything can make me want to go eat at Long John Silver's. There used to be one where me and Blake lived, and I think I maybe seen one person eat there my entire life.
There's a place in Durham that's kind of the equivalent of Long John Silver's. It's called Captain D's, and it's about the same vibes as Long John Silver. So
Nothing says white trash like a fast food fish.
I'm telling you, man, no, you don't want more than Alaskan whitefish.
He looked like a fish when he's trying to get those words
So
out.
that grease.
Kid, you
And
good?
you got-
Your stomach gurgling?
No.
Bubble
You
guts.
say those words, and it just, it sets everything into motion.
He can hear the mariachi in his stomach right now. P13, we had Michael McDowell. It's a good finish for Spire. Honestly, been trying to put good performances together, and they've had speed. During practice and qualifying, they've been pretty decent this year. I mean, Hocevar and McDowell have been showing really speedy, but when it comes to race weekends, I don't know if it's just a setup or what, but they've been missing. Some drivers that had some major issues. Had Larson. Man, geez, that's what I put beside Larson. Twice in the wall, once on lap 4. And, of course, the last caution being him. A lot of people have been throwing a whole bunch of
Conspiracy theories.
well, not necessarily that. This is more around the DVP clock. Like, should he have been allowed it? If it's the old DVP clock, he would have never been allowed back on the track. But the car really wasn't that badly damaged other than the front end. Of course, it took him about 198 laps to get it fixed or whatever.
160.
Yeah, so.
And then he wrecked again.
Yeah, on the last lap.
Hit the exact same spot.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
But I'll be the first person to tell you guys, me and Blake used to love Bubba Wallace to death. And we like Bubba Wallace a lot more now. It seemed like he's chilled out. We've talked about that on the podcast. Bubba Wallace 100% did not wreck Kyle Larson.
Well,
my man brake checked. That's what it looked like. He just absolutely locked those brakes up.
Did y'all see what Reddick did, though, right in front of him?
He hit the wall. I know
he was bouncing off the wall. So I think Larson was trying to just make sure that he didn't do anything to tamper with the race that was going on in front of him. And I don't think he knew at all what was coming up behind him. So it's just he goofed twice in one race, but it happens.
It's just a typical Larson thing to do. Josh Berry got in a wreck, which honestly looked like a really good car towards the middle of the race. He was in the top 10. Wouldn't say he was going to be a winning car, but he could have been in the running at least. He took a pretty good lick, too, on that wall. So, of course, a lot of people talked about that paint scheme, especially with the interlocking with the different sports of NASCAR and Indy. So it was really cool to see. Bowman hit the wall mid-race, was able to finally get track position, and he just absolutely demolished the side of his car. I mean, it was just – he just didn't know that wall was coming up on him. It was just like it was behind him for some reason. I don't know. It was wild. And then Brad Kay, man, had that wheel nut just absolutely just fly off mid-camera. Couldn't ask for a worse camera shot for Brad Keselowski because, of course, he'll be getting that penalty this week for the loose wheel.
That's tough, too, because he was actually racing pretty good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because the spotter was out, too. Yeah, that was a bummer for him.
But I guess we'll start it off before we get to Kent's Rant Fest whenever we get. Back-to-back jacks with Denny Hamlin going to victory lane, showing case that Toyota is still running on all cylinders. I know that had Christopher Bell win the first few races this year. Then we had just kind of like a little bit of dispersion, a little bit of difference. But Toyota is still the REM that's showing the most dominant performance in and out every week. And now you got Hamlin with 2 wins in the bank. Great positioning and points. You don't want to say it, and I'm not going to say it. I am not going to be the person that jinxed Denny Hamlin because
and it's his year.
Oh, there it goes.
It's his year. Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen this year, right, guys? It's his year.
It's reverse luck because Kent doesn't like him, so he's going to win the championship.
No, Kent is the curse. Kent is the curse.
Yes, but it's the reverse curse because he's not being genuine with his feelings.
Never mind. I'm just gonna close my mouth for a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's
I'll
too
say
late.
it's
You
a
were.
possibility.
Yeah. But, I mean, a lot of people will say, hey, Hamlin back into this one. Kent. But this is why NASCAR is a team sport. It is. It's not, five guys on the basketball court throwing the ball back and forth, trying to get the best positioning, or baseball players working with like certain synergy on the lineups and stuff. There's a different team in the works, but when it comes to these restarts, these pit stops kind of play crucial, and JGR has always been fantastic with their pit stops. Hendricks, typically decent, but at the end of the day, Denny Hamlin's team was able to come up with the fastest pit stop, got them the track position, which we've mentioned at Darlington is essential. It's one of the most important things that you can have. And then Denny Hamlin, all credit to him, he hit a fantastic restart, especially for, not being in clean air all day. Hits that restart, checks out, and he's gone. And it only took those 2 laps. So,
Well, and Reddick, was it Reddick or Blaney who took it 3 wide, or Bale who took it 3 wide behind him? That essentially gave him the win too, right there.
Yeah, so you had on that restart, you had Reddick on the inside of Byron. Bell takes it 3 wide.
Okay.
And so Byron squeezes out on the top right after Reddick put him in the wall a couple of times, and then Bell gets by Reddick, and so I believe that's how they ended up finishing. But yeah, they were 3 wide, and you knew Hamlin's gone
For sure.
Man, Byron sure does like the wall at Darlington, doesn't he?
Austin, look, all right. There was a paint scheme that won on Saturday, and it should have gotten my vote for the best paint scheme of the year because of what it did in Martinsville in 2015. But you know what? All right. I gotta wash my mouth. Y'all are testing my self control tonight. Golly.
oh boy. So, I mean, Austin, I'll throw it to you first. Back-to-back wins for Denny Hamlin. What does this kind of do for you in regards to just Denny Hamlin's arc this year? Because going into it, it really looked like it's going to be an iffy year starting out.
Yeah, he was really slow, but I mean, the last 2 tracks we've had and the one coming up this week, man, they are in his wheelhouse. Most active wins at Martinsville among active drivers. Now I think he has the most active wins at Darlington among active drivers, and then going into Bristol, he's not. I mean, he's not catching Kyle Busch, but he still has a ton of wins. But if I'm being honest, kind of rooting for Denny. In all honesty, I think all of us can agree. Whether we like him on or off the track, that's neither here nor there. But all of us can agree he has had a Hall of Fame career, and he, was 3 Daytona 500s.
Yeah.
He's won all the. He's won.
Crown Jewels.
He's won all the crown jewels. Yep. And the only thing that's missing off that resume is a title. And we hated to see Mark Martin's career end without him getting that title because it kind of tarnishes your career. It's like, yeah, you're a Hall of Famer. Yeah, you had a heck of a career, but you never finished it. And I mean, poor Mark Martin though. He has one thing that Denny has never had, and Mark Martin was a runner-up 4 times. Like
09 season.
Oh my gosh.
Him and John, man. I mean, that fine Kellogg's car, I think it was, or no, CarQuest car. Man, that thing was fast that year.
Yeah. So, really want him. I want him to get the championship. I don't think anybody's, no matter how much you like or dislike a driver, I don't think anyone should wish that, they don't get that. If you have, that whole career and that whole resume, So I'm pulling for Denny, and I think this is the best chance he's had in a while to get it done. I think he started off the year slow, but man, did he bring it out in Martinsville? He brought it out there at the end of Darlington, and he's going to be a contender going into Bristol as well. So he has even more of a chance to extend the run that he's. I mean, we won't have 3-peat winners, both from Joe Gibbs this year. Like that'd be a crazy storyline. But yeah, I'm rooting.
Corey Haim-esque.
Yeah, I know. I'm rooting for Denny this year.
I'm actually right there with you, Austin. I never thought I would say it.
Me either.
But I think for me personally, I've started to like Denny a lot more ever since he started his podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Because what he says makes sense, and what he wants to see on the racetrack is what I want to see as a fan, for the most part. Now, obviously, every driver's going to say something that benefits him, right? But for the most part, when he talks about, hey, NASCAR did this really well back in the day, we should get back to that, there's a lot of stuff that just kind of clicks. It's like, I actually agree with that. And so over time, I've started to kind of grow to like him. I mean, I feel weird saying it because I used to hate his guts, especially after 2017 Martinsville. I was like, really, dude? I think were you there with me that race, Austin?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I definitely wasn't.
Yeah. But just over time, you really appreciate greatness in this sport. Like, I think I wouldn't say it's a regret as a NASCAR fan, but I wish I would have appreciated Jimmy Johnson more in his heyday. Looking back at it now, because I do now, but I wish I would have appreciated a little bit more back then. And I don't necessarily want to make that same mistake with Denny because he is obviously a Hall of Famer. I mean, what did he do? Just tie 11th all time on the wins list this week? 10th, 11th?
He passed, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
He tied last week, and then he passed Rusty Wallace this week.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about a bad-to-the-bone driver that Rusty Wallace was, and Denny Hamlin surpassed him. So I hope he does well. I hope he does well. What he's doing to try to transform the sport is he's hanging his neck out there for sure, and I like that. I like some personality from a driver.
I know who doesn't like his personality. The guy that's
wearing
that Byron hat.
I'm gonna do my best to be as unbiased as possible, but I'm not gonna lie. There's definitely bias in what I'm about to say. So, to your point, Blake, when I would go to the track and I'd watch Jimmy Johnson race, right? I mean, he was winning when I went to the track for my first NASCAR Cup Series race, and it felt like he was still dominating when, obviously he went through a lull there towards the end of his career. I think that had a lot to do with the Camaro body and Hendrick Motorsports having a hard time kind of figuring that out for some folks, and I think they were starting to figure something out at the end there for Johnson for sure. But I remember going to the All-Star race in 2020 there at Bristol. I know some of y'all were at that race. Were all y'all at that race?
Cole and I were.
Okay. Austin, you weren't? I got you. So I remember going to that race, knowing that was probably going to be the only race I went to in 2020, and thinking, I'm going to soak this in because I'm going to get to watch a 7-time champion race today. And I can't, in my lifetime, sure, I was living when Dale Sr. was still racing. I hadn't gotten to go to the track and see a 7-time champion race, though, before, right? And I remember soaking that in. And then, fortunately, I've got a chance since then, right, to see him in a couple of Coke 600s. He's still around the sport. So grateful he's still around the sport.
Yep.
And Denny is the same way, right? Like, he obviously, he's not even a one-time champion. But you look at what he's accomplished on the racetrack, and you look especially at the longevity of his career and the consistency that he's been able to stay towards the front. I mean, he came in firing on all cylinders. Was it his first? It wasn't the duel. It was the
Clash.
Clash.
But,
The Bud Shootout.
Yeah.
And his rookie season, he won it. And so he's always been consistent, always been good. And so, you, as much as I hate to say it, he's great for the sport. First of all, you need that villain, and you need that villain to be good. But you need to remind people every now and then what greatness looks like. And he definitely is one of those drivers that can say, hey, look, I've achieved greatness in the sport. What I kind of am going to say, though, and this is where I know it's bias sitting in some. When Mark Martin retired, he retired, and we said, here is an incredible race car driver. And this just goes to show how hard it is to be a champion in this sport. Obviously, Denny Hamlin has at least one more shot this year, right? Maybe 2, 3 more, but he's running out of opportunities. And if he does not win a championship, you're not going to look at him and say he's a failure because of that. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is. What you're going to say is, here is one of the all-time greats, and it's just that hard to win a championship at this level.
Especially when you think about all the different generations of points that he's been a part of, like all the different types.
Yeah,
he's been a part, of just different systems. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I thought that would be a good point.
No, I think that's a great point. I mean, you're having to adapt so frequently, right? Like he came in, and they were already running the chase point format, when he came in, but the chase format switched up. I mean, they added wild cards there towards the end, and then if your name was Jeff Gordon and certain cars spun in front of you, then you got put in. I never complained about that, but that was cool. But anyways,
Gordon.
And then the Gordon Gate, Spin Gate. I think they actually called it Spin Gate, right? Anyways,
yeah, it is.
And so but I just. Yeah, he's racing a lot. Now, I think you could take any of those championship formats, and he wouldn't have ever won it in any of them, which is kind of wild, too, when you look at seasons that he's had. Like, 2020 was a remarkable season for him, and it gets overshadowed because of what Kevin Harvick did in 2020. But Hamlin's just always been a good driver like that, a great driver. He is a great, he's going to go down as an all-timer. But I think he might just have to go down as the greatest to never. And so, I mean, we'll see. He could certainly turn around and do it this year, but I think he's probably going to go down as the greatest to never.
I mean, you think about it, yes, he's gone across different playoff formats, but he's also been across 4 different generations of cars, too. Like, he started racing on...
And been good in all of them.
Yeah. We all remember him seeing that long black 11 FedEx car, and then car of tomorrow, previous gen, and this gen. I mean, he's run across 4 different generations of cars and has won at every one. And like you said, first ballot Hall of Famer, easy. And I also want to point out just how blessed we have been as NASCAR fans in our generation. I mean, we grew up getting to watch Jimmy Johnson win 7 championships. We grew up in the middle of Jeff Gordon's career. We grew up in the middle of Tony Stewart's career. We have seen Kyle Busch. We've grown up and seen Kyle Busch dominate every series, everything he gets into. He dominates. He dominated. And we've seen Denny Hamlin as well for all these years be as dominant as he's been. And I just wanted to mention that. I think overall we've been blessed to be able to grow up and as adults, still witness, Danny's been racing for almost as long as I've been alive. Like I was like 8 years old when he was a rookie. And I've gotten to see him race my entire life pretty much. And I just didn't want that to get lost. We're all pretty fortunate to what we've witnessed in NASCAR.
Well, and especially too, like you look at the latter part of the 2010s, like from 2015 to 2019. I think Martin Truex was the most winningest driver, and that really came out of that decade, and that came in the last 5 years of it. And so see somebody like him have you want to talk about turning his Cup career around. That was completely awesome too, and especially when a lot of that was out of a team out west. Right, so awesome things we've been able to see.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Is like, not only have we seen fantastic drivers, but we've seen absolutely iconic moments throughout our lifespan. Probably Truex winning the championship with Furniture Row was like, if it's not my favorite championship year, it's got to be in my top three, because that's the Cinderella story. That's what people write. That's what people watch March Madness all about. It just concluded not too long ago, but that's why people watch it, because they want to see those teams that nobody's heard of. They know that they don't have all the great recruiting opportunities. It's the same thing with NASCAR with these lower teams. And that's why I like to mention them, is because we've got to see fantastic moments. So I am going to have to move on from this, because we spent a lot of time talking about Denny Hamlin and whatnot. But I did want to kind of mention and ask you guys, just this race, in all honesty, it was a snoozer. I know for Kent it was enjoyable because, of course, his driver was leading a lot of the race. But when your driver is leading a race like this, you like it. Like, if I guess Blake's most relevant would be like Larson leading Bristol in the fall last year. It's really hard for someone that's not a fan of those drivers to really follow the race, though. So for like new fans, what would you suggest to keep yourself interested and invested in these races, especially when you have the broadcast team not necessarily talking about all the battles that are going on at the track? It's easier to see, of course, when you're at the track. Which Kent, your buddy went to the track this weekend, which I hope he enjoyed it. But Lord,
When
I mean,
he's a
it must
Josh
have been a
Berry
hard.
fan,
Oh
so
Lord, yeah,
that
he
was
was mad.
heartbreaking for him. I was texting him, and we were starting to think. I asked him though, because I knew that it was y'all. I had a friend of mine, one of my best friends. He texted me, he's like, "Man, this is absolutely garbage." And I was like, "Speak for yourself, man. Like this has been great." But I asked him, and so he went. He took his dad too. They had both. Neither one of them had ever been to a Cup race. His dad had never been to any type of NASCAR race, and his takeaway was, and of course he's there at the track, not watching on TV. He said it was fun. He said he thinks he turned his dad into a fan. He said that they're both looking forward to going to Atlanta Motor Speedway when the series returns in June.
Right.
So that just goes to show how much different it is at the track. A race that was a snooze fest on TV for some, I can't really attest to that. My heart was racing the whole time. I knew it was going to happen, but I mean, it still hurt when it did. But in person, you get to see every little. I remember going to the 2016 Coca-Cola 600. Y'all remember how that one went? Truex led just about every single. He led 392 of 400 laps.
Yeah.
Absolutely dominated. What I remember is watching Chase Elliott get caught speeding on pit road and having to work his way through the field again to a top 5 or to a top 10 finish as a rookie, in a big race. So, like, what I remember is like, man, that was fun. That was a good race. I got to watch that. TV probably didn't show that. TV probably was just like, oh, hey, look, Truex just led another lap. Oh, hey, look, Truex just led another lap. It's just TV probably didn't show it. I mean, they still had, the game together in the booth for that race. But the original gang for Fox. But anyways, so yeah, and in person, it's just, I mean, I can't even explain it. You just got to go.
I had a friend that was at the race. Him and his girlfriend went. I think it's his first NASCAR race in a while. He's a Byron fan too, oddly enough. And even though he was, gutted about, Byron losing it there at the end of Denny, he still had a blast. And him and his girlfriend, is her first ever NASCAR race. She had a blast too. She even asked him if they were going to go to the race in the fall.
Oh,
So they really enjoyed it, and also what you don't get from the couch versus being there in person is being at the track, and the experience of being at the track, seeing the haulers, especially on Throwback Weekend. They got the cars, the retro old cars, all out there as well that you can walk by and look at, and there's just something about being there. And I've been to Darlington 3 times, and I'm planning on going back and forth this fall, because it's a fun track. It's fun to watch the mid-pack battles. It's fun to, especially if your driver is not doing well. It's interesting to see them, if they're moving up, if they're falling back. You can see a whole lot more because you have the whole track to look at. You're not just bound to what the poor broadcast does to show. So yeah, just get a ticket and go to a race, and you'll find that it is. And that's what my wife learned too. It's a lot more interesting in person than it is at the track, because you can follow different things. My wife, when she first went to her first race, she was like, I don't know where to look. Like, I don't even know to begin to know. I was like, well, watch your driver go around a little bit, then watch some other drivers go around a little bit, just maneuver around. So,
and sadly, her driver wasn't even there, nor was I.
yeah, it's true.
No, I'll echo what these guys said, and I'll tell you, I don't know if I was able to mention it last week or not, but I took a few boys from church to the race, and this one guy, he's grew up watching NASCAR. He's 29, and never been to a race. Was super excited. And do I think Martinsville last week was an okay race? Sure. Was it the best you ever saw? Absolutely not. Cole actually had the idea to for him to go down to the track and go, and we sat in like row 3 or 4, and they just loved it. And I recommend too, if a race in person is getting boring, go down to the track and feel the speed of the cars. That will help pass the time also. But yeah, I buy a ticket. I'd much rather watch a boring race in person than a boring race on TV. I don't care what
Amen.
I don't care what the network is. There's good races on Fox, bad races on NBC, and vice versa. And so
sorry to cut you off, but I'm sure you would agree. Like, even like we all agree, for the most part, Pocono is one of the most boring races on the circuit. It's one of the most boring. But I imagine if you were there in person, it would probably be a lot better.
Yeah.
It's also one of the most unique tracks, the ways that it's styled. Being able to see that, especially if you're higher up where you're able to see that would be very interesting in person to see how they shoot different angles. But you can't really tell it on TV.
Well, and I think too, you take a track like Richmond. Now, I don't know what it's like on TV. I can't imagine it's great. But going to the track, I love it personally. Now, Cole might disagree with me.
Richmond's, I don't like Richmond.
But I personally love going to that track. It's so much fun in person. But also, like, listen to the guys on the radio. I know I've said it before, and I don't want to like beat a dead horse, but they can make the most boring thing sound fantastic. I mean, you just listen to them in qualifying, and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? And you know, as a singular car is just going to go run 1 or 2 laps, but they make you get on the edge of your seat.
I listen, and another track that's become more boring here lately is Dover. I listen. Me and Anna were on our way back from Georgia one weekend, and the Xfinity race was on. And I was like, I'm just gonna pop on the Xfinity race and listen to it while I drive. It was riveting. Like
Yeah.
it was awesome. It was Ryan Truex won, of course, but it was just really interesting just listening to it through, because when it's audio, you have to be more descriptive of what's going on. Like I enjoy listening to Major League Baseball on audio versus watching it on TV sometimes, because just the broadcasters do such a good job. So yeah, if you just pop in an earbud and have MRN going while you watch the race, you could do that too.
Oh yeah, it'll amplify the experience for sure.
I gotcha. So I guess I do want to talk about this, but I know we can't stew on it too long. But I mean, it's another gutting kind of deal, especially for one of us. And our buddy Kent here, he hijacked the social media this weekend and made sure that he was going to post a picture about how gutted one of us was. So I feel like I do need to at least let him say his piece so he's able to sleep, 2 hours tonight, So Kent, go ahead, buddy.
I appreciate it. Do we have a bleeper? No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm
Please.
kidding.
I can pull up a side like a sad violin noise. You need me to?
I'm
playing my violin for you right now.
Some Sarah McLachlan in the background or something. But if y'all, I'm just gonna plug it because it's an excellent podcast. Josh Pate's college football podcast that he does. He has these things where he has the Sarah McLachlan special of the week, and it's the football team that just absolutely had missed on every single statistic and just was terrible. This was a Sarah McLachlan special, that third stage for William Byron. So here's what I'll say. Here's what I'm going to tell you what I was feeling in the moment, and I'm going to tell you the conclusion I came to. In the moment, I was ticked. I was like, in my head, I did the math. He had about a 4-second lead on Reddick. And he was going to lose about 2 seconds per lap once Reddick came in and got tires. Logically speaking, Reddick pits, you come the next lap, maybe wait 2, but if you wait 3, then you're having to pass him back. And Byron he hadn't even really had to pass lap traffic all day. So I'm not really thrilled about the idea. So I'm thinking, okay, you don't want to give up the lead. You just go ahead, you pit, and you do everything you can to stay out in front. At this point, with the green flag run, the way that it was going, you had to give up the attempt at the perfect race. That was not going to happen anymore. That was not going to happen. It was a cool thought. Now it's just about winning the race. Reddick pits. They wait 1 lap. That's fine. You got 2 in the books. They waited 2 laps. Again, 2. That was where it was going to be. Then 3 laps go by. 4 laps go by. I believe it was on the 5th or 6th lap. He finally comes down pit road. And then they're scratching their heads when he's 5 seconds behind Reddick. They're like, how in the world did this happen? I'm like, I learned that math in 2nd grade. Like, I don't understand what Rudy Fugle was looking at. And I'm not just hating on him because, look, he has won William Byron way more races than he'll ever lose them. The bulk of William Byron's race wins have come from days that he had that were not dominant, but Fugle had the right strategy, put him in the right place at the right time to capitalize on a win. This was a race that they absolutely had no business giving away, in my opinion. And so I just did not, because even then you stay ahead maybe of Reddick by 2-3 seconds. That last caution still comes out, but Ryan Blaney had just passed Reddick. I don't think he would have quite had been able to catch Byron yet, but it would have been close. Either way, you were going to pass him on pit road because Blaney's pit crew is hot garbage. And then you're going to be back in the front and have the chance to win it on the green white checker. So I don't understand why there wasn't more of an effort to get him back out in front of Reddick. I just that still I can't really wrap my head around that. It's kind of like, there was one year where I just kept thinking, man, Chase Elliott's going to run out of gas if they keep him out longer. Surely, right? Nah, Gustafson knows better than I do. Surely he's not going to. Hey, look, he just ran out of gas on the backstretch at Watkins Glen, 4.5 miles from the closest pitch. I mean, it's like, what in the world? I mean, it was just one of those moments where you're like, no, like, I'm not going to second guess myself. I did know better than the crew chief in this situation. It's like, no, I am smarter than that. But, like I said, I can't be mad at Fugel because the guy's won Byron way more races than I think he'll ever lose them. At the end of the day, they probably were thinking, hey, look, we've got to win in the bag. Let's stay out a little bit longer, see if we catch that caution, see if we can go for this perfect race. I can't fault them for attempting maybe to say, hey, look, will that caution come out? Let's go for the perfect race. And then eventually having to say, all right, but we can't give up too much position. Let's come down pit road. So, I mean, I hate that he finished second. I hate who he finished second to. But, like y'all said, I won't say it was a fluke win for Hamlin. It wasn't. It's a team sport. They put him up there. His pit crew gave him a chance to win it, and he capitalized on it. That's all NASCAR is, capitalizing off of other teams' errors. Byron's team made a mistake. Hamlin capitalized on it and won the race. And so I'm going to get over it eventually, but I'm probably never going to watch that race again. I'm not going to watch any reruns of it. It's going to be like, there are a few races that as soon as they come on TV, I know how they end, and I'm like, I'm not watching this. I just really don't care to put myself through that. It's kind of like I wouldn't sit there and rewatch the 2017 national championship game between Alabama and Georgia. I'm just not interested in that. Don't really want to watch that. Anyways, but yeah, left a bad taste in my mouth, but he'll get them next week.
Yeah. So, what was y'all's favorite throwback this weekend in the Cup level? I'm kind of curious to hear that. This should be just a quick answer.
Berries.
Of course. What about you, Kent? Do you have a favorite Cup throwback this weekend?
Man, y'all hit it on my favorite. I mean, biased. I mean, I loved seeing the Gordon throwback, but I didn't think, man, I felt like they should have let more time pass. It's only been 10 years since that one was run. I really, really loved the Larson throwback and the fact that we got to see it for all but 3 laps. But, the Larson throwback, that one, it was great.
Oh, boy. What about you, Boston?
That was Hamlin's. I love the
Yeah.
the Carl Edwards throwback. I thought it was clean.
Carlington.
Yeah. I think that given, everything that's happened with Edwards, I feel like the 11 is kind of my favorite this weekend too, because it was just, he's getting back into the sport. And then of course, seeing that car back on the track, metaphorically, of course, it just felt right. It felt like the best scheme all around. I would like to mention that Darlington was the worst rated race of 2025 so far, with 45.9% saying yes, 54.1% saying no. It was a good race. And I can do some comparison with other years, but we're just going to leave it at that. I feel like that speaks enough. Coda did better than Darlington did. We'll leave it at that. So
Coda was a good race this year for sure.
Yeah, they rated Coda as number 2 all over this year so far, so which is wild.
What's number 1 so far?
Berries at Vegas.
Nice.
So, which makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to this week. We have the trucks, we have the Xfinity, and we have the Cup. So we have some faces that are returning. Brandon Jones in the number 1 truck this weekend. the 07 of Kyle Larson, the 7 of Corey Day. Maybe he'll not be cursed by Kent this weekend. Bailey Curry in the 44, Luke Finnis in the 66. Our boy Parker Kligerman back in the truck, going to avenge his Daytona win that he totally got. Number 75. And then Patrick Starapelli back in the 84 in the truck series. Xfinity, we have Nick Lentz in the 07, Kyle Larson back in the 17, Justin Bonsignor, right? Number 19. Number 24, Corey Heim. That's going to be a very interesting car. It's Greg Van Alsten, the 35, 45, Mason Massey, 53, Mason Maggio, a couple of names that we've heard already this year. Number 66, Tyler Tomasi. Number 70, Thomas, Unazita? Is that how it's pronounced, Austin?
I don't know.
Okay, roll with it.
Yada.
So, number 74, Dawson Cram, and the number 91, CJ McClellan. And 2 cars will miss the race this weekend, as you can tell by the list of just everybody. And then Cup, the course of Food City. This is a very iconic name race. Food City's been sponsoring this race, feels like forever. We got 3 drivers. 2 drivers with big names and 1 that's been around the sport up and down. Number 66, Josh Balicki, is the one that's been up and down kind of guy. Jesse Love making his first start in the 33 car. And we have Corey LaJoie making his next start in the 01. So make sure you guys line up Corey LaJoie for your picks for your Pick'em series this week. Make sure you get him out of the garage for fantasy.
Oh, La Joie.
La joie.
So we're going to go straight to the 4 wide segment. But we're going to throw it to Kent for the old history check portion of the podcast. So here you go, Mr. Kent.
Awesome.
So, mine ain't gonna be much, to be honest, and I'm gonna have more to say this fall. I gotta save some of my material, but I kind of wanted to pitch. Do y'all remember when Ryan Newman first was coming on the scene and just absolutely torching qualifying laps at every track? Ryan Newman, and I'm blanking on the year. Y'all might be able to help me with this. It was around 2003. He was the first to run a sub 15 qualifying lap at Bristol. And so, again, a half-mile track, steeply banked. I know y'all are going to get into the, all the numbers and everything for the track, but I mean, very, very steeply banked, and so you're just absolutely loading it into the corners at a high rate of speed. And I was watching, Joe Gibbs posted several years ago, I say several, 2022, they would post from 10 years previous, and then they would post the current year, one on top of the other, and you would hear the sound of the car from the in-car camera going around the track. So it's like, here's Denny Hamlin going around the track in 2012. Here's him going around the track in 2022, right? There is such a huge difference. So the reason that I say to bring all this together with the laps that Ryan Newman was running, you look at the horsepower they were running back then, you look at the horsepower they're running now, you heard those engines absolutely screaming down the straightaways, even for short tracks. The video that I happened to catch of Hamlin, it was Martinsville. And I mean, that car was just screaming high RPMs going down the straightaway, no shifting. And nowadays it's by the time you get middle of the corner, you're shifting down, and then you have to shift up but you shift up and you're not even running the amount of RPMs, it's at least to what it sounds like. You're not really pushing the engine as hard as you were, when you were running just in the same gear. I mean, it just sounded absolutely wild. What do y'all think it's going to take for NASCAR to put more horsepower back in these cars? Because horsepower has always put on a better show for every race. I think Bristol has been one of the short tracks that's kind of escaped the for the most part, the next gen struggles at putting on a really good race. But what's it going to take for us to see more horsepower at the track?
Maybe if they tried it during an all-star race weekend, that might be because
Man, that's where they took the horsepower to begin.
Well,
But you're right, they try stuff there.
Yeah, they try a lot of stuff there, but for some reason or another, it seems like if you lower the horsepower, that's going to bring that's going to bring OEM into the sport, which is completely the opposite of how Toyota got into the sport. Oh, by the way. So I don't know if you lower your standard, then they'll come. You don't have to build anything; they'll just come if you decrease the value of it. So I don't know.
Well, I would say this too, and I'll kind of go ahead and wrap mine up because I really didn't have a whole lot to say. Bristol's got a ton of history. I mean, you go back and look. I mean, Darrell Waltrip owned this place when he was racing. Being from Tennessee himself, of course, he's going to want to represent well the hometown track. But if I had one race, if I had to take one race and show it to somebody and say, this, to the best of my ability, this encapsulates like what NASCAR is all about. Like this is NASCAR as I remember it as a kid, what I hope it is going back to, what I think it could be again. I believe it was 2004. Dale Jr. won at Bristol, and there's a shot of him doing donuts on the front stretch, and just camera flashes all around a packed out, sold out Bristol Motor Speedway. That's NASCAR. Like anytime I think of peak NASCAR moments in its heyday, that's what I think of. And so, anyways, when it comes to Bristol, and I know Cole, you're going to get to the track kind of stuff, but get to this track. This is peak NASCAR. The day race, the attendance fell a ton. They tried putting it on dirt. It didn't help, I think, as much as they were hoping it was going to. But it's always good racing. And last year, the spring race, at least Austin believes that it was the best race of the season, and I think the rest of us feel like maybe the tire wear was a little too much, Austin. But no, I'm just kidding. I mean, last year it really did. It put on a show in the spring race, and I hope that it will again this year. But I guess Blake, you'll know a little bit more about what we're going to expect. So
Maybe.
All right, Austin, let's hear the track dynamics, my guy.
All right, so Bristol, it's got a lot of different names it's known for. World's last Coliseum, the world's fastest half mile, theater of speed.
What a name.
Fun fact, the plan originally to build this track was not actually in Bristol. The plan to actually build this track was in Piney Flats, Tennessee, which is a couple miles outside of Bristol. Piney Flats Motor Speedway just doesn't have the same ring to it as Bristol. It just doesn't really sound the same. But lo and behold, Speedway was built, and the first ever race was held in 1961. And the banking originally at Bristol was only 22 degrees. But after Cale Yarborough put a whooping on the field in 1969, the banking was raised to a steep 36 degrees. R.I.P. Cale. Getting into the specs of the track is so short that speeds here are far lower than is typical for most of your NASCAR oval tracks. But they are fast compared to the other short tracks that are on the NASCAR circuit due to the high banking, as we mentioned. I mean, 36 degrees is considerable banking. These features make for a considerable amount of paint swapping, bumping into one another at the NASCAR races where the initial starting grid extends almost halfway around the track. So if you qualify poorly here, you're not going to have a good day, because you're fighting for your life as soon as the green flag drops, because in about 20 laps, that leader is going to be on your tail. And it was worse back when there was 43 cars in the field. I mean, it was a lot worse then. So if you qualify poorly, you're starting the race almost a half a lap down already. The track is made completely out of concrete, which is one of the few NASCAR tracks completely made out of the surface. The track is only 43 feet wide. It's not wide at all, and you definitely don't want to run on the apron. The apron is not an option here. The front stretch is between 4 to 9 degrees, kind of varies. And then it leads into the high banking corners in 1 and 2, which is a little over 30 degrees. Goes into a back stretch at, again, 4 to 9 degrees, and then turns 3 and 4, another steep 30 degrees. It's fairly simple. It's a Coliseum design. It's just steep and it's fast. That's what makes it stick out. Another interesting aspect of the track is that pit road covers both the front stretch and the back stretch. An interesting feature to Bristol. Making sure you enter pit road on the right side is crucial, because I'm telling you, from the days of playing NASCAR Heat at Bristol, it's really easy to get it confused on which side your pit is on. So what does it take to win here? There's a couple points I have. What does it take to win here? The first, keep a cool head. Being that the track is so fast, it's so tight, it's so short, there's a lot of bumping, a lot of banging, spinning out, people using you up. You're going to get frustrated because there's only 2 lanes you can really run to Bristol, top or bottom, and one of those is going to work and the other's not. There are legendary moments from this track of cooler heads not prevailing, guys getting bumped out. We all know the famous phrase, "I just meant to rattle his cage." I didn't mean to wreck him. I just meant to rattle his cage. RIP number 3. I think of Rusty Wallace and Jeff Gordon having their feud. Tony Stewart in the Xfinity race throwing his helmet at the number 17 Valvoline car. These are the moments we think of when we think of Bristol. It's the tempers flaring, because 500. You have to do this for 500 laps of dealing with this. So you have to be patient. You have to endure the bumps and get to the end. The second thing, pit road is going to be essential. I know it plays a factor in other races, but here especially, you do not want a speeding penalty. You do not want a loose tire. You do not want too many men over the wall. No penalties involving your pit, because going a lap down here can end your day. It can absolutely shoot a foot in your day. The real question is, what Bristol are we going to see this spring? Are we going to see what we saw last spring, where Denny walked the dog with the entire field? The tires were disintegrating after 15, 20 laps of running. Or are we going to see what we saw in the fall, where Kyle Larson walked the dog with the entire field and dominated the entire race from the green flag dropping to the end? That's the question, and we'll get into that with a second with Blake to see if we can kind of get an idea of what to expect. But guys who are good here, there's one guy who is an active driver who is king of Bristol, and that is Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch has 8 career wins here in Cup and 9 in Xfinity. The man knows how to win at Bristol Motor Speedway. This is another track that's in Denny's wheelhouse. Denny has the second most wins among active drivers here. He has a legit chance to three-peat this weekend, as we've said. Brad Keselowski is good here. Larson is good here. Logano is good here. Starting position is going to be key here. There's this one trend that I found that I researched, and then I'll be done. Only once in the last 10 races, counting spring and fall, only once in the last 10 races has someone won from starting outside the top 15. One race out of 10. The majority of the winners from the last 10 races at Bristol have started inside the top 5. Large majority have started inside the top 5. So what's going to be crucial here is how you qualify. If your driver doesn't qualify inside the top 5, he's probably not going to win the race. Just based off the trends alone, he's probably not going to win the race. So the key is, are you going to qualify well? Can you keep a cool head? And can you make no mistakes on pit road to cost you laps that you have to earn back? And at this point, I will hand it off to Blake to tell us, what are we looking at? Are we looking at fall Bristol again, or are we looking at spring Bristol again?
Fellas, this is one where, this track isn't as easy as a Darlington, to where I can confidently say, you know what, we're going to have tons of fall off, and you're going to really be able to see the cars slow down. Because we had last spring and then we had last fall, and they were two complete opposite ends of the spectrum. So here's what we've got. So the right sides are going to be the same right side tires that have been since the fall of 2023, which would have included last spring, but they were also the tires for last fall. All right. But the left sides, of course, trying to get the left sides a little bit softer. These are going to be the ones that were ran at Dover last year, and the Dover tires have been pretty decent lately. So there's some hope there. Temperature-wise is usually a big factor with these tires. It looks like for right now the temperature is going to be about mid-60s, so I don't know that. So I don't know that that's really good news for us. So that makes me feel like we're going to see more. On one hand, we're going to see more of fall Bristol. Here's something that might lean a little bit more towards spring Bristol is there's going to be some rain on Friday, maybe into Saturday. Sunday looks good, but the rain's going to wash off probably a good amount of the tires that are going to be laid down on Friday night, potentially going into Saturday morning. So you're going to have a little bit of a cleaner surface, which means that's a little bit more conducive to more fall off. That is if it rains. So I hate to sound like I'm really being wishy-washy, but the variables with this tire at Bristol have been so up and down. It's really hard to tell.
I did have a question.
Okay. One to it. They are going to have PJ1 on the track this weekend, so even if the tires aren't really falling off, you will have that second lane that will come in eventually. When it comes in, it could be lap 50 if the tires are falling off pretty good. It could be lap 150 if the tires are hard as a rock. All right.
That was my question. Are they putting down a resin or something to help add to the grip? That was basically my question.
They are, and so a lot of people think last year the resin was the reason for the fall off. We'll see. I think what we're going to see Sunday is a lot of answers to what we might have been curious on. We might see a lot of what it doesn't do, or we might see a lot of what it does do, depending on temperature. But that's where Goodyear, I feel like, it's almost an impossible situation because you can't predict the weather, right? I mean, last year, I will say for this spring race, it eventually did get pretty sunny, and wasn't tons of rubber down on the track, so it was really able to fall off. But we'll see. I wish I had a concrete answer. No pun intended, right? But we'll see. It's going to be that's going to be a huge storyline this weekend. Is what will this tire do?
What's interesting?
Yeah.
What's interesting is this: we're running later at Bristol than normal. Last year, Bristol was like the 4th race of the year. We ran it before we ran Coda. And this year we're running it in April. So, I know they did the dirt that one year on Easter, but we're running it later than last year, and still the weather is just not favorable.
Well, and I think the weather. I mean, it rained in 2014. It rained in 2015. It rained in 2017 and 2018. And you look at 2019, and the crowd size went to. You only sell the straightaway tickets, right? And so that's why the dirt came, because they had to revive it. And so you can't really tell what the tires did on those years for the concrete. So for the spring, who knows? We'll see.
I would like to mention that there will be wet weather tires available if they need them. They are the same tires that they ran in Chicago last year. So just if that becomes a thing, I hate the fact checker boy, but he didn't mention it, so I'm gonna make sure I mention it.
It looks like I will say that it looks like it's only going to be a thing for the trucks potentially.
Well,
Maybe Xfinity.
It's a racetrack on a race weekend, and there's rain in the in the broadcast in the report.
I wish.
Yeah, just know that that's going to be a possibility. So, I'm gonna make mine short and sweet this week, as I usually try to. Put your butts in seats, sell tickets, so NASCAR can continue. This is one of the best tracks in regards to being able to see a different construction. Most short tracks, flat. Bristol banking is so unique. That is the big difference. That banking, being able to see those cars go into that banking and seeing them clash against each other, that's like short track racing. Of course, it's not, the old school Bristol that we remember, as Kent kind of alluded to, with the shifting and, not as fast and whatnot. But it's one of those racetracks that you do need to at least go to. And if you're thinking more on an economic standpoint, if you're a fan that's looking, after their wallet, the spring race is probably going to be the most cheaper option, because the night race is highly desirable. The tickets are usually a lot more expensive. So if you are wanting to go to Bristol this year, I would recommend getting tickets. And if it's anything like Martinsville, there's going to be plenty of tickets, because we went to the Martinsville Cup race and it was abysmal. It was probably the worst race I've ever seen where it didn't rain, in regards to seeing the seats, which there was massive storms and stuff, of course, talked about all weekend, but still, towards the later part of the weekend, there was no even consideration for rain. So, put your butts in seats, sell tickets, support your drivers, and just go out and see a fantastic race, because I have an inkling that it's going to be an interesting race. It may not be the best race that we see all year, but I think it'll at least be one where we're not sitting like Darlington, where we're like, man, this was rough. Now, I might be eating those words here, but we're going to move on to our spicy takes for the week. Blake said there would be no cautions. I mean, you blind man, there was plenty of cautions.
No, plenty.
Cole Custer did not win. That was definitely a shot in the dark, but hey, it is what it is. Justin Haley getting a top 10 was what Austin had. That was a no siree. He looked like he was going to be for like 2 laps when he was on the pit cycle. That's what I sent in the group text, like, hey, guys, Haley's in the top 10. Oh, never mind. There he went. And Kent had Briscoe getting a top 5, which looked like he was going to have a good car to do that, and just kind of faded towards the middle of the race. So I'm going to throw it to Austin first. I would throw it to Blake since his was really off, but I don't know where he is. We're just going to act like he's not there right now. We're going to throw it to Austin. Nope, shut up.
That's looking at the weather for this weekend.
I'm gonna say 15 cars finish on the lead lap.
All right, Blake, I'll throw it to you.
Jesse Love gets a top 15.
I mean, looking at Austin
In
Hill's
the cup,
performance,
yeah,
yeah,
in the
I would
cup.
say looking at Austin Hill's performance on the cup level last weekend, that 33 car did not look like it had much. So that's probably a good prediction. Kent, you want to go ahead and throw yours out there, Bucko?
You're muted.
Yeah, you're talking to the void.
Yeah, I know. I was messing up there. Anyways, all right. So Kyle Larson is in the truck race,
Yep.
and I'm gonna go ahead and say he gets a DNF, some way, shape, or form. DNF in the truck race.
That's probably the most likely of everything here.
Yeah, and as the words came out of my mouth, I was like, that actually that might track. So I don't know if y'all
What
need me
about
to go spicier, I'll go spicier.
what about you say that Larson gets a DNF for the truck and the cup race? He's
Oof.
in the Xfinity race too, right?
Is he running a triple header?
Yeah,
I'm looking at.
yeah, yeah. He is 07, 17, and the. So you could say the sweep.
Okay. Give me the sweep. I'm gonna flip flop on the other one. Give me the sweep. Kyle Larson gets the sweep.
All right.
Kyle Larson pulls a Kyle Busch.
I guess I'll change mine. Let's see here. You know what? Give me Corey LaJoie in the top 13. He's got good momentum from the last two. Well, not really Atlanta. Atlanta was kind of a crapshoot, but he looked really good at Daytona. He's chose the races that he wants to race at. In particular, there's got to be a reason for it. Where he feels the most comfortable. So let's give him a top 13 in regards to that. So
Very specific, senor.
yeah, I mean, I'm very, very specific when it comes to my statistics, my guy.
Yeah.
So, but if I'll put an honorable mention, I say that I'll go against what Austin said statistically wise. I think someone's going to come from the back to win the race. We'll change it up with that too. So
All
I'll
right.
give 2 this week.
Oh, yeah.
All right, and I'm going to throw it to Austin for our competition.
All right, boys. We have all 3 series to pick from this weekend. We'll start with truck. Obviously, no truck race last week. The last truck race was at Martinsville, basing it off that order. So the pick order will go Kent, Blake, Cole, then myself. So Kent, you were first on the board to pick for the Bristol trucks. You cannot pick Infinger. You cannot pick Hemrick. You cannot pick Day. Who are you taking for the Bristol trucks?
Y'all actually gonna make me say it, or is it like we just know? I mean,
Larson.
obviously Tony Bridinger. I'm just kidding.
Too late. You said it. Write it down.
Kyle Larson.
All right.
Wow. Well, I can't believe I'm going to get Corey Heim for the second pick. That's wild. After he just absolutely flogged everybody at Martinsville.
All right, Blake, you are next. You are picking next. You cannot pick Heim. You cannot pick Chandler Smith. You cannot pick William Byron. Who are you taking?
Lane Riggs.
He's been sitting on this one for years, boys.
Yeah, I would have had him 2 weeks ago if it weren't for you meddling kid.
Well, it didn't give me a win, so it's not that great.
All right, Cole. You can't pick Chandler Smith, Majeski, or Riggs. I guess you're going Heim.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I'll take Infinger.
That's who my second pick was going to be if Heim was taken.
All right. Looking at our regular season standings, currently I'm in the lead with 16 points. Blake is second with 13. Kent third with 11. Cole last with 10. Cole and Blake are the only ones with their championship predictions locked in with Hemrick and Heim. Moving on to Xfinity. Recapping this past week, the curse has been lifted, potentially,
Praise be.
for Kent. Kent took the victory in the Xfinity Series with Chase Elliott finishing P2. Blake came in second with Allgaier in P3. I came in third with Chastain in P4. And Cole finished last with Bell being the outlier in P25. So looking ahead to Bristol, Cole will pick Foist. He cannot pick Love, Algier, or Sanchez. Who are you? Actually, hold on. Wait.
I can pick Love this week, I think.
Yes, you can. Sorry, I didn't update these. Yeah, you can pick Love this week if you so wish.
It's hard because you got Larson in the field too, but you know what? Give me Jesse Love. We love Jesse Love.
We love.
We loves Jesse Loves.
All right, so Jesse Love for Coleman. I pick next. Gosh. I cannot pick.
Yeah, I was about to say, who can't you pick?
I can't pick Love, Algier, or Chastain. So I think, you know what? You know what?
Do it.
Did y'all say Larson was running?
Yes, it's number 17.
Yeah, give me Larson.
Yeah.
Dadgummit.
It's like, I want back-to-back weeks, baby. Come on.
Come on, man. You can't do that to me. So, Kent, you cannot pick Almirola, Kvapil, or Elliott. Oh, wait. No. Wait. I got to get Blake first. Blake. You, my friend, cannot pick Kvapil, Almirola, or Algier.
Give me Sam Mayer.
Okay.
The bulldozer, baby.
Chrome Domer of the Xfinity Series.
Yeah, honestly.
I almost went to Benedetto, but I'm like, maybe later.
All right, Kent, you cannot pick Almirola, Kvapil, or Elliott. Who are you taking?
Give me Mr. Consistent. I'll take Justin Allgaier.
That's a good pick.
That's great value for where you're picking. All right.
Yeah, I'll take it.
I would say Ryan Sieg's really good at this racetrack. Too.
I considered him.
Finished at 8th.
His sponsors sponsoring the race.
Psyops, yeah.
So, regular season standings, I'm in the lead with 23 points. Cole is second with 20. Blake third with 19. Kent in the bottom with 18. All of us have our championship predictions locked in for the Xfinity. Looking at Cup, obviously we don't make our official picks, but we run through different scenarios. Blake broke my streak of 5 consecutive races with Hamlin finishing P1 at Darlington. Kent came in second with Byron in P2. I came in third in Reddick with P4. And Cole is first, last place finish since Phoenix. Picked the Busch at P10. And so, looking ahead to Bristol this week, Cole, you cannot pick Reddick, you can't pick Bell, and you can't pick Busch. Who are you looking at going into this week with basically a good chunk of the field at your disposal?
Oh,
Denny Hamlin.
Shocker. Totally shocked. I don't think you need to expound any more on that.
I can write some more on my hand if you need me to.
No, I'm good. Oh, you wrote it on your hand?
Yeah.
I
did this first.
I didn't see it. All right. Let's see. Next up is myself. I'm picking second this week. I cannot pick Larson. I can't pick Hamlin. I can't pick Reddick. Honestly, I'm thinking Bell. Bell's a guy I'm leaning with. For one, he's been running well in general this year. And two, he does really good at short tracks. He finished second at Martinsville. Finished well here last year. I think, I have him. If I have him available, actually, I will have him available because Cole can't pick Bell. If he qualifies well, I think I don't have much of a choice but to roll with him going into this weekend. Let's see, Kent, you're up next. You had a great week, by the way. I forgot to mention, you had 2 stage wins this weekend. You actually ended up with more points than Blake did, and you didn't even technically win this week. And it puts you right back into the hunt for the diecast at the end of the year. So you cannot pick Blaney. You can't pick Elliott. You can't pick Byron. Considering that Bell and Hamlin are likely going to be off the board by the time it gets to you, who are you considering?
If that's the case, then I feel like it would be foolish not to go Larson for this track, given the performance he had last fall and knowing like what y'all mentioned, what the feel of the race, the way that it's going to go, potentially with the weather and that sort of thing. If there's some rubber laid down for that Xfinity race and it carries over on Sunday, that sort of thing. So, man, I've got some backup options that I like. Wait, did you say I couldn't pick Blaney still?
Yeah, you can't pick Blaney.
Never mind. I don't have any backup options. It's Larson or bust.
He's like, I have a ton of option, boys. Never mind, I don't got squat.
Nah, I could. I mean, there's you're like, I don't know.
Don't get rid of your secrets.
No, yeah. Let's hear Blake. I've got some
first.
like desperation shots that are not bad picks, but if it comes to it. But anyways, yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah.
So Blake, you cannot pick Byron. You can't pick Larson. You can't pick Hamlin. That's tough.
You're in a rough spot, honestly. Yeah. Again.
No, I'm not too worried. I think you got to look at Chase Elliott this weekend going into the short track package. Hendrick's been good, and I mean obviously not apples to apples, but had a great start to the year with the clash at Bowman Gray on that short track, and did a great job at Martinsville too. And so looking at him, and obviously I think Busher is one that you got to look at too. 2022 fall race winner for RFK. So those are going to be two guys I'm going to be interested in seeing.
I think it's easier to pick this week than it was last week for Darlington because, man, Darlington was tough to pick for. In some ways, I think it's almost easier to pick for a plate track than it is for Darlington sometimes, just because everything has to go right for your car to run well. But that's Bristol. Looking at the standings, I'm in the lead with 27 points. Blake is second with 20 points. Cole and Kent are tied at 19. That 5-point day from Kent has brought him back into this thing. So,
give me that last place, boy. I want
it. Hey, Phil, you can have it. Please take it. Please take it.
I want it.
So we'll make our official picks on Saturday after qualifying. We'll see how it goes from there. Next week, we will not have Cup. Next week, we will not have Cup because of Easter. But we do get a truck, well, technically a triple header. We get an ARCA, truck, and Xfinity weekend at the Rock in Rockingham. So we'll be picking for that and covering that next week. So that is all I have, and I'll hand it back to Blake, or to Cole.
So just a fun little. I think for since we're not picking Cup next week, I think we're going to pick ARCA. I think we're going to have just a fun ARCA free for all to see how that goes.
Nah.
But like Austin said, it's just next week's going to be the Rock. We're going to get to talk about the Rock. I'll be at the Rock. The Rock's going to be nice. There was some other people that were supposed to go to the Rock, and they're not going to the Rock. And it makes me the Rock upset.
They did not do it for the Rock. They did not do it for the people.
I hear that Xfinity race is close to sold out.
Yeah, well, a lot probably are rolling with the whole weekend package too, because it's a very cheap option to see 3 races for that weekend. So,
and when we say the Rock, we're not talking about the Rock Johnson. So,
no, we're talking about the Rockingham, the GOAT, the real Rock. Forget Dwayne Johnson. What Rockingham is cooking.
It's cooking.
All right, ladies, boys, that Blake takes to the racetrack.
Gentlemen.
And everybody else, I wish you a good night.
Guten Tag.
Adios. What he said.